Hello everybody, this is Daniel with Daniel's Bullion Coins, and I thought I would do a quick video today over some of the 5 reasons that I believe the dollar is going to collapse. Obviously it's mathematical, historical, scientifically, politically, and biblically. But first I want to tell you about some of what's going on, what I'm seeing from a local coin shop's point of view, and the phone calls that I'm fielding right now. And there for a while, over the last month or so, we've been noticing low income people are really struggling. When you figure that 70-80% of their income goes to food and gasoline, and those are the two things that are left out of the CPI report, they say it's too volatile. And they put in a number that is 1/3 of the calculation, which is a made up, invented rental number. What does your property rent for? And that's 1/3 of the CPI number. So we know that that number's a lie. I noticed for the 4th of July, meat was up 35% year over year this past 4th of July. And we all know when we get gas that it's much higher than 9.1%. If it was $1.50, $1.60 on November the 3rd, 2020, for the election, prior to the day of the election, and it's touched $5 here a couple of weeks ago, obviously that's quite a bit more than 10%. So we know the CPI number is a lie. But talking about fielding calls, the calls have been coming in, people with pennies and nickels, and just trying to see if they can sell them for something, anything that they can scrape up. And that's been sad to see. And now we're starting to see a lot of people calling with urgency on what to do, how to do it, how to get ready, where do we go from here. The price of silver and gold are way down, and it's because of the relative strength of the dollar. You have to hear that word relative to other currencies crashing. It's like a team of skydivers jumping out of an airplane without parachutes, and all the other currencies are going to hit the ground first before the dollar. He jumped out last. And so we're doing better. So if that helps you understand where we're going. As the dollar gains relative strength, this affects commodities. Not only does the relative strength of the dollar cause commodities to go down, but it gives ample fodder for banks like JP Morgan to hammer the price down and get out of their shorts. And this ties into a story that someone called me and told me about this week, where they were real young and signed up for the military to pull a stretch of duty, and they got a sign-on bonus. And part of that, the major part of that sign-on bonus, they put into the local bank. Because they believed in the bank and the people, and we had grown up, our parents telling us to trust the bank, start a savings account, buy stocks, these types of things. My dad was always encouraging us and trying to teach us to do that, to be frugal, save money. And this fella put his money into the bank, and shortly after that, a few years later, the bank went under. But just prior to it going under, all of the board members paid themselves $1 million each and then absconded, and the bank went under. Well, that same scenario is happening again. Politicians have collected a net worth of $600 million each, whether you look at Pelosi or Waters or Adam Schiff or some of these other politicians. They're 100 times millionaires on a $275,000 salary. And I'm tying this all together now. These politicians are running this dollar into the ground by printing it. And the banks are setting it up where they're scooping up the last bit of profit, the last bits of silver and gold, by hammering the price down. So you've got all these criminals, all these political crooks right now, whether it's in Congress, whether it's the banks, whether it's the Federal Reserve, they know that it's about to crash. They know the timing. And they are taking one last big scoop by driving the price way down and taking delivery of the tangibles. And I think it's amazing how they timed it for the 4th of July week, when most people were out of town or on vacation or consumed with other activities, and they didn't focus in on the price. Nobody, back to the calls at the shop, nobody called when it was super low to stock up. Not a single phone call. We did get phone calls, people desperate to sell pennies and nickels, but not any $2,000, $5,000 sales. So the bank timed it perfectly. When the Americans were preoccupied with the 4th of July, they were able to hammer the price down, grab up the last big handfuls of tangible silver and gold. And I believe this is the same scenario we had in 08, where right before things really started to collapse, gold and silver went down. Also, you have margin calls. The market is down. Most people are telling me 20% losses in their 401ks and in their portfolios. And with the market down like that, people are on margin, and they sell what they can liquidate the quickest, and that's tangibles, that's commodities. So for a while, you see copper, silver, gold, some of these other miners, they all get hammered down because of the margin calls. They're in heavy, or they're buying the dip on the FANG stocks, which Facebook, I can't remember them all off the top of my head. Facebook, Netflix, Kathy Wood type stocks, ARK investment company. She's down, I think, 70%. A lot of these FANG stock investors are down 60, 70%. The stock market is down on average. The highly swing stocks are down 50%. Portfolios are down 20 to 25%. Well, you take that and you combine it with gasoline being up 200%, meat being up 35%, and you can see that the dollar's collapsing. You don't even need these 5 things. Maybe you can put all that under mathematical. That 20% here in the market, 35% in meat, a couple of 100% in gasoline. How about service? That's triple-digit percentage increase. You call someone to work on your car or work on your house, the rate is just outrageous right now. But we've got mathematical, historical, scientifically, politically, and biblically, and we're going to talk a little bit about each one. I'm just going to, over time, do a series on this, and I'm just going to keep adding information. Maybe since there's the most amount of information on political, we'll talk about that right now. This administration that is in office right now, this is what they've done to disrupt the price of oil. They re-entered the Paris Climate Accord, canceled the Keystone Pipeline, halted all leasing programs in Anwar, Alaska. They did a 60-day halt on all permits on federal lands, eliminated all support for fossil fuel, new regulations on oil, gas, and methane. They drained the reserve, which the Republicans have filled on numerous occasions, and the Democrats continually drain it. And the Ukraine war, they started that as soon as they got in office. They started the Ukraine war. Isn't it interesting that Hunter Biden and his problems and his connections all relate back to Ukraine? And isn't it interesting that the DNC server is in Ukraine? So Ukraine is very key issue between the Biden administration and Russia. And we saw where Russia just came out a day or two ago threatening us with nuclear attack. Two bombs on the East Coast and 2 bombs on the West Coast, they said would completely wipe us out. I don't think they'll drop that kind of bomb. I think they're saying one thing and they'll do another. We'll have to see what happens. They're alienating Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia won't even take Biden's phone call, and he's supposed to travel over there right now. And there's been a lot of, well, Biden's not really able to make it. He's not feeling well. He's going to come on home. I think Saudi Arabia canceled their meeting with him. They don't even want to meet with him. And to keep from having a political nightmare situation where he shows up there and he's mistreated or something politically, they are just saying that Biden needs to return home because he's exhausted. Another thing about Saudi Arabia, 2014, they started melting down all of their bars. They sent them to the Swiss, and the Swiss refined them from the Western standard, which was 3 nines and approximately 400 ounces. If it was plus or minus a couple of ounces, they didn't worry about it. The Western system didn't. But they sent all of their bars to Swiss, and they refined them, melted them down, and redid them all to a 4 nines metric standard, which is the East, which is what Iran and the BRICS nations and all of that are going towards, Russia and all of them. I can remember a few years ago, probably about 2015 or 16, when the Canadian maple leaf changed to 4 nines and the Panda changed to 30 grams, the metric system. So this is a slow process. Many little things, little straws being added to the camel's back to eventually unhooking from the dollar. We basically have already unhooked from the dollar. It's just the last few little things, and I think a digital currency is what they're going to want to introduce. Saudi Arabia, you also remember that reporter that was killed. The Saudi Arabia prince had something to do with that, and I think it ties back into our relationship with Saudi Arabia. Pushing the Iran deal. What do we need to be pushing the Iranian nuclear deal? Why do we want to give them nuclear power? Why are we turning our backs on Israel? Just doesn't make any sense. Canceling the Abrahamic Accord. These are all things that drive up the price of energy. And today, Russia turned off the natural gas flowing to Germany. So now Germany is scrambling to try to restart their coal plants that they had turned off and dismantled years ago. So they're going back to that type of energy. Let's touch on mathematically really quick while we've got this here, and then I'll wrap it up. Mathematically, in 1980, we had a $900 billion debt. We went to a 20% interest rate with Paul Volcker in order to reduce that inflation down. If we have a 35% meat inflation and a triple-digit gas inflation and triple-digit service inflation, we would have to have interest rates above the inflation rate, the true inflation rate, to stop this inflation. And needless to say, and here we are raising it 0.25, maybe 0.50. They're talking about maybe 1% rate hike here shortly. We were a credit nation and a manufacturing nation in 1980. Here we are in 2022 with $30+ trillion in debt. So we have to pay the interest on that debt. If we raise the interest rate, then we have to pay that amount. That's how come they can only do 0.25 or 0.50 when they need to do 35%, just to start to get a handle on stopping and curtailing inflation. And we are a debtor nation and a service economy now. And it's a very complicated process, but our currency is actually a debtor currency rather than a credit currency right now. We have a trade deficit of $2 trillion per year. And we have 1.5 quad trillion in derivatives floating around the world. That's where banks around the world used fractional reserve currency to increase the currency supply. And those derivatives are estimated at 1.5 quadrillion. There are some estimates of 2 and 3 quadrillion, but even 1 quadrillion is an incomprehensible number. And to hear politicians say we need to raise the taxes on the rich, it's mathematically impossible to solve this problem by raising the taxes on the rich. Well, this is just a quick little startup video. I'm going to keep adding information to this out across, and maybe we'll sit down once a week and update you on the things that I've seen that tie into these 5. We have biblically, we know that gold and silver is God's money, and we look forward to going into that in depth, and I'll put down some verses here for next week. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and comment. We really do appreciate it. I look forward to reading your comments and answering every one of them. Thank you again. Good day.